Welcome to day 2 of Integrate. I hope so far that you've all enjoyed what we put together. We're really proud this morning to welcome an alum of our program, Scott Cuppari. He is the Global Marketing Manager for Coca-Cola Freestyle at the Coca-Cola Company's Atlanta headquarters. Scott leads consumer marketing for Coca-Cola Freestyle and specializes in all things digital, social, mobile, web, and gaming. He advises global teams, Coca-Cola customer teams, and individual customers on how to use social media and digital platforms to build relationships and deliver consumer value via technology. Prior to joining Coca-Cola Freestyle in 2011, he spent 15 years in media and interactive, working on some of the biggest brands in sports and entertainment properties such as World Cup, American Idol, NBA, and the NCAA Final Four. Scott is a Clarksburg, West Virginia native and holds bachelor's degrees in marketing and a master's degree in integrated marketing communications, both from WVU. Please join me in welcoming Scott.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I want to make sure everyone's awake, so I'm going to kick us off with a quick video which really sets the mood for the entire presentation. All right, are you crazy enough? As you see in this video, it's all about stories. It's all about storytelling. And what I want to talk about today is the Coca-Cola Company approach to storytelling, what a brand is to us, our application of IMC. I want to talk a lot about this machine. This is my baby, my brand. This is Coca-Cola Freestyle. Has anybody used that machine? All right, love it. Do you remember the first time you used it, or where you were the first time you used it?
Yep.
That's a story. I love it. All right. Oh, please go back here. Okay. And if we're lucky, I'll have time at the end for a ton of questions. I've already seen on Twitter this morning lots of questions about the Freestyle platform, lots of questions about Coke, some of the videos, some of the case studies that maybe the faculty has shared with their students, or as a student or prospective student, you'll hear about in the IMC curriculum. So as a reminder, keep the conversation going. Day 1 was great. Use the hashtag, send me any questions that you've got, and let's get going. So I'm going to read this. This is how our chairman defines a brand. It's a promise made to your customers and consumers, your employees, investors, communities, vendors, and suppliers. It's all about trust. Trust is the glue that holds all these relationships together. You break the promise, you destroy the relationship. And if a good brand is a promise, then a great brand is a promise kept. And when you think about Scott's presentation yesterday about empathy, it gets to the bottom of what we aspire to when we focus on brand love. Other definitions from David Ogilvy: to the intangible sum of product attributes, the name, the packaging, the price, history, reputation, the way it's advertised. When you think about the Coca-Cola brand, it's 127 years old. If we've been nothing else, we've been consistent. For 127 years. The dynamic ribbon, the Spencerian script, Coca-Cola Red. Consistent. Another definition. A brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Conversation happens 24/7, 365, and for a brand like Coca-Cola, conversation happens in all 207 countries that we do business with, or we do business in. It's probably also happening, the conversation's happening in just a handful of countries that we're not doing business in directly. And when you think about the top global brands, this is pretty humbling because Interbrand for the last 13 years has named Coca-Cola as the #1 brand in the world. But again, it's very humbling. We have to innovate. We can't rest. We know our competition is right on our heels. And we're in great company when you think about the IBMs, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world. All great brands. Each brand has a story. Each story is told in a slightly different way, depending on the manufacturer, the industry, the executives. But when we think about, again, Coke and Coca-Cola Freestyle, we want to spend a lot of time talking about how we define a brand. What does it really mean to us? I'm in the great position at the Coca-Cola Company to not necessarily sell a packaged good. Coca-Cola Freestyle is a 750-pound computer, right? That's my brand. And like a lot of tech companies, I've got the fortunate role of being more nimble, working with a ton of engineers that come and grew up in the tech space. So we can think, we can do, we can iterate, we can test, we can learn, we can fail, and we retest again. But we do it at warp speed compared to the bottle or can side of the business. So, brand love, it's loyalty beyond reason. Loyalty beyond reason. When you walk into a Kroger and you see our product and a competitive product on the shelf at the same price point, brand love breaks that tie. And over the course of many years, 1971, what do? We taught the world to sing. 1978-9, we gave Mean Joe Green a Coke. We've got a long history of storytelling through commercials. And I want to share a couple commercials. And they're not necessarily commercials as you would picture for TV use. The first one you may have seen. This one's called Happiness Machine. This lives on YouTube and in multiple iterations, over 6 million views. Take a look. Okay, can everyone in the back hear me now? All right. Where will happiness strike next? Again, consistency if nothing else. Coke has always been about happiness, optimism. How to make the world better tomorrow than it is today. How do we apply that brand love to the local communities in which our bottling partners operate in? How do we help around the world with sustainability, water conservation? Whoop, let me go back. So this is a commercial that was brought in from Latin America. This actually aired in the Super Bowl last year. And you think about security cameras and all the nasty things that you find on security cameras. Again, in a way that only Coke can, we've spun the content that we've pulled from the security cameras, and we're telling a story in an optimistic way. Again, consistency, open happiness. And one last one. So based on the success of the happiness machine, it's only appropriate that we now have a hug me machine. So it's the joy, it's the excitement. It's not necessarily about putting a few quarters in and getting a drink. It's about an experience. It's about the love of the brand, the steps consumers will go through to enjoy the brand. And again, if you think about the principles of brand love, it cuts across everything. It's a journey. Consumers have a story. It could be the story of the first sip of Coke that your mom or grandmother gave you. It could be the Coca-Cola signage that's at a baseball park or a football stadium. It could be, in some parts of the world, there's a great video on YouTube of I believe she's a 93-year-old woman who did not have accessible water at her house. So Coca-Cola partnered with yet another company. We ran literally pipes from the river to her house, and we had a spigot tied to a tree outside her house. Her memory of Coca-Cola is now providing her water to her home after 93 years. That's a Coca-Cola story. It's not necessarily about the can, the product, the drink. It's about the company and the ways that we give back. So again, why love? Why am I spending so much time talking about brand love? For us, it's value. It's value for, of course, our company, our customers. So in my mind, a customer is the Wendy's, the Burger King, the Walmart, the Target, Six Flags, the theme park, the cruise ship, Delta Airlines, anyone, the college campus, West Virginia, right? Anyone who has Coke and distributes Coke, that's a customer. We deliver value to consumers. And of course, our shareholders. And I talked about sustainability as well, but when you think about love, in pricing terms, again, it breaks the tie, it reduces the sensitivity, it protects our future. Again, a 127-year-old brand. And if you've got brand love, it lowers the cost of all your other marketing programs. You don't need to spend tens of billions of dollars to create it. Maybe you dial that back a little bit because you know you've got an entire network of ambassadors. And the biggest pool of ambassadors that we have at the Coca-Cola Company are the employees, right? From the shirts we wear to the drinks. 700,000 system-wide employees, again, sharing a story. My grandfather drove a truck and delivered Coke. My uncle worked at the Coke bottling plant. Whatever that story is, that's gone through now from generation to generation. And to be honest with you, brand love's great for business. If you think about the relationship pyramid, I can know a brand, I accept a brand. Yeah, I may like a brand, but what happens when you really love a brand? This is what happens. I go from drinking a Coke one time a week to a few times a week to once a day to 3 times a day. And when you think about both sides of this, if they love you, they'll drink you. Value is the duty. That's what we're paid to do. But love is the legacy. So think about this for a second. This is the #1 case study. When I was going through the IMC program, everyone loved to talk about New Coke and how this was a failure. And I was sharing last night that, yeah, I'm going to talk about it too. But what you may not realize is in April of '85, New Coke came out. Our 1-800 call center, because the internet didn't exist at that point, right? Our call center, 1-800-GET-COKE, was getting about 400 calls a day on average. Different questions, I love this, like this, want to try this, where do I find that? And on this day, when New Coke was announced, call volume spiked from 400 to 1,500 calls a day. And that lasted and lasted and lasted for 78 days until July of '85, when our president at the time had a big press conference and announced, what? Classic Coke is coming back. For the first time in the 99-year history up to that point, the Brainiac executives decided, we're going to change the formula of Coke. And this is what happened. And it took them 78 days to go back and reintroduce, again, Classic Coke. Imagine what would happen today with social media, right? That 78 days turns into about 7.8 seconds before all hell breaks loose, right? Twitter, Facebook, email, you name it. And then you think about the conversation and how we're connected. It takes, right, what? One person on Facebook connected to 500 or 600 friends, and that story just spreads at warp speed. You put the social media lens on this case study, and it gives you an entirely different perception of, if you fast forward the clock to today's era and today's technology, how bad this really could have been. So most of that was about Coke, the company, Coke, the brand. Let's talk a little bit about Coca-Cola Freestyle. And when we think about how marketing has evolved and the importance that IMC has. In the 80s, it was easy. How do you reach the masses in the 80s? You put a ton of money behind a few TV commercials. At that point in time, there were only a handful of TV networks to even advertise on. They had 80, 90% reach or penetration of the entire US market. Done, problem solved. In the 90s, it changed a little bit. In the 90s, it's now about segmentation. How do I reach young adults and moms at the same time? Different cable networks, different magazine ads. Okay, but we're still not to one-to-one marketing. And thanks to the internet, fast forward another decade, in the 2000s, it was really about one-to-one marketing. Different websites, email lists, all the things that you can do. But now you fast forward yet another 10 years, in today's time, one-to-one marketing is irrelevant. There's no such thing as one-to-one marketing anymore. Because again, if I try to market to you, positive, negative, neutral, because of your connectivity to everyone else through your social networks, one-to-one's gone. And it's in this environment where IMC really becomes important, because when you look at our integrated marketing approach, there's 5 focus areas: consistent messaging, seamless connectivity, a pinball effect. I'll talk about pinball effect here in just a second. Providing tools and encouraging social sharing. And no dead ends in the connections plan. And what I mean by the pinball effect, that who loves a good old-fashioned pinball game, right? You can drop that ball in at any point in time and it'll bounce around. And that's the analogy I use for the landscape today, from film to shopper marketing, anything that you would find in store, online, outdoor, events, and sampling. The first experience or the first exposure for Coca-Cola Freestyle could happen at any one of these points. And we want to make sure that there are no dead ends, no lost balls, again, in the pinball analogy. Drop them in at any point in time and let them engage with your brand in a variety of ways. Make sure that story is consistent, but also make sure that that story adapts to the channel, to the message, and to the environment. A shopper message, a piece of point of sale that I would put in a Wendy's or a Burger King for Coca-Cola Freestyle would be very different to a shopper than a consumer outside of the 4 walls of that store. Different need state, different mentality. And the landscape is crazy. It's two-way, it's dynamic, it's always changing. It's co-created. Consumers are creating more content right now about Coca-Cola Freestyle than we are. It happens. They have a story. It's fluid. It's always on. On the bus over yesterday, we were talking about the size of the social media team at Coca-Cola. To be honest with you, the social media team at Coca-Cola really doesn't exist. Because if you think about all of our brands all over the world, I would need 200 plus people to try to manage this. It can't happen. So we rely on agencies today in different time zones. And while we have one Coke Freestyle page on Facebook and one Coca-Cola brand page on Facebook. Coca-Cola is one of the largest brands on Facebook, over 60, I believe 66 million fans right now. Based on language, based on relevancy, we could never centralize that process. We need to leverage local agencies in all of those markets, but we all roll it up into one core Facebook page, one community. So if the landscape's changing, consumer needs are changing, technology is changing, what does all of this mean? It's about content. There's a ton of content. We heard yesterday how many hours of content are uploaded to YouTube each day. Got it. Content's only half the battle. You need good content. You need killer content. You need content that can scale. You need content that, in our case, could spread to all ends of the globe. It needs to spread in real time. We don't have the luxury of waiting a day or 2 days. It's the ADD effect, right? I need it now. It has to be right now. Got it. It could happen now if you've got great content. And the reality is, it will spread in real time with or without us. So what do? At Coke, we talk about liquid and linked. It's our philosophy for marketing that does a few things. And there's 3 key areas of focus for liquid and linked. The first, again, stories. I need somebody with a counter to tell me how many times I've said the word stories this morning, right? It's all about stories. The content, the experience, the conversation. That story has to spread. And we can't pass the red face test if that story that spreads doesn't deliver value. It has to be linked to everything we do. And when we think about consumer engagement, there's a number of ways that you can spread the content. We focus on 4 key areas: paid media, owned, earned, and shared. And I'll give you examples of each of these 4. So for paid media, it could be an outdoor billboard. This was a wall that we did in Chicago last year. Paid media, right? It could be a TV commercial, an outdoor billboard, a magazine ad, email, banner ads, you name it. The message here, it's introductory. We assume that folks have not seen Coca-Cola Freestyle at this point in time outside of the 4 walls of a restaurant or a movie theater. So what is Coca-Cola Freestyle? It's all about 100+ choices. Discover your choice. In a typical restaurant, you walk up to the fountain machine, I get maybe 6 or 8 options. Now, I've got 100+ brands that, if I really wanted to, I can now start mixing different brands together. So, show of hands again, for the folks who have used Coke Freestyle, who mixes different brands together? Anyone? All right. My favorite mix is an orange Coke and a vanilla Coke. Tastes like a creamsicle. Just a little tip, just saying. Or a Coke Zero or Diet Coke, but the orange and vanilla, I think, rocks. All right, owned media. The Coca-Cola Company has more trucks on the ground every day than UPS, FedEx, and DHL combined. It wasn't until a few years ago that we realized this. The light bulb went off and said, wait a minute. The truck itself is an asset of our bottling companies, and we've got 73 bottlers in the US. Some of those graphics could be a decade old, dirty, but that's our brand. So let's work with those partners, and let's have a custom and a standardized look and feel across that entire fleet. Great. The truck is an asset. Every cooler, every vending machine, every can, every piece of licensed apparel, that's all owned media. Our websites, our Facebook pages, that would fall into this space as well. This is a truck we designed and tested last year. So this vehicle rolls around the country to different basketball games, NASCAR events, theme parks. We were up at Six Flags in Chicago. And on the back side of this truck are 3 Coca-Cola Freestyle machines. First time, I mean, it was hard enough putting a Freestyle machine into a Wendy's. Imagine getting all the water, carbonation, everything hooked up in a mobile vehicle that's rolling down the highway, and that 750-pound computer doesn't break, right? And there's 3 of these things in there. Built from scratch, everything custom. But as it rolls down the street, without those doors up, without the awning out, without the activation team, this is, to a lot of people, a normal Coca-Cola truck, a route truck. Shared media. As a packaged goods company, we don't own the 4 walls where Coca-Cola Freestyle resides, right? That's a Wendy's. It's their environment, their point of sale, their look, their feel. So we work with these companies and customers on that co-branded space. And this, to me, is one of the favorite things I see when I walk down in New York. This is on 42nd Street, Five Guys, on the marquee outside the building featuring Coca-Cola Freestyle. Imagine the tourists now who have no idea what Coke Freestyle is. And their first experience, if they're from abroad, coming into New York, they see a Five Guys, that's new to them. They see Coca-Cola Freestyle, gee, what's this? And now their story spreads. When they get back home, oh my gosh, you're never going to believe what I saw when I was in New York. And there's a lot of crazy things to see in New York, right? This was on the positive side of that. And again, earned media. Our chairman, at our 125th celebration, we believe that this, Coca-Cola Freestyle, will be a game changer for us. It's the speeches, it's the third-party endorsements or awards. In Forbes, in December, I think, 2011, Forbes.com announced us to be one of the 2 coolest tech advances in the last decade. It was us and the iPhone. Pretty cool company. But different design awards, sustainability awards, it's all there. And at the end of the day, through our Facebook and Twitter pages, we want to inspire fans to do the marketing for us, share their story. It's not about me pushing content. It's about me asking a simple question. What was your first Coca-Cola Freestyle experience? Where were you? What did you try? This is the truck in action. Of course, we're going to continue to excite fans, keep that engagement going. This was at a NASCAR race. And if you've ever been to a NASCAR race, you know there's a huge Coca-Cola Fan Fest area. You've got a live big band and stage going. You've got different activation vehicles. And we pulled up the Freestyle machine, and it was just 40 people deep on each of the 3 dispensers for an entire day. From the time we rolled up the doors to the time we shut it down, it was just non-stop people. We listen for opportunities, right? We engage in the conversation, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. Hey, it's the first time I saw this Coke machine from the future. They don't even know the name, right? It's just Coke machine from the future. We'll send a tweet back. Hey, what you found is Coca-Cola Freestyle. What'd you try? Coke? All right, that's okay. Next time around, have some fun with it, right? You've got 100+ other choices. Have some fun. But we're always listening. Can you see the kid in here? This was a photo that was sent to us for Halloween 2011. We got it the day after, and this mom, the kid walked into a Firehouse Subs or a Moe's, I forget which now, loved Coca-Cola Freestyle, wanted to dress up like a freestyle machine, created this costume, it was his inspiration. So we reached back out to the mom and the son to see if we can use this in our Facebook post the following year. We made heroes out of this kid. They loved it. Of course they said yes. But now you see the other conversation, my little brother's so doing this next year. So you got me. I'm a fan. Okay, now what? That's not good. All right, so when something bad happens, I can tap dance a little bit, right? Is this the experience you want? Or is this the experience you want? Oh, crap, you know, Twitter's over capacity, but I'm feeling good about it. Right? It beats this. And when things go wrong, we talk about being flawsome. Take your flaws and be awesome with it, right? If something bad happens, if Coca-Cola Freestyle is confusing the first time you step up to it, that's all right. Acknowledge it. Talk somebody off the ledge, right? I felt like an idiot the first time I saw and used it, but I love it. Don't worry. You'll be a pro in no time. If Coca-Cola Freestyle machines had caffeine-free Coke, I'd be a very happy man. Wait a minute. We just took you from 6 to about 140 plus brands. Of course, we don't have everything on that machine right now, so here's another request. Hey, great. We're fans of caffeine-free Coke too, and we like the idea of adding more choices on the Coke Freestyle machine. Of course, check back right here for any changes. And thanks for asking. So I'm going to end you with a few closing thoughts. I want to make sure that we've got time for Q&A. And the first thought, again, if nothing else, remember stories are the currency. You need great content that can scale and spread in real time. You need to always listen, because when the conversation happens and you're not a part of it, you need to be able to respond, whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. We spoke about this yesterday. You have to leverage today's mobile technology for storytelling. If you think about all the consumers that are connected right now through mobile phones, smartphones, computers, TVs, and you match to the other side, when asked, what would you rather give up instead of your phone? Alcohol, caffeine, sex, a toothbrush? I'd go without shoes. You know, I don't know about some of these. There are days where I'd love to get rid of my smartphone. But mobile phones aren't the be-all, end-all. It's another channel. It's another device. If you rewind a few decades, it's the same as TV. Everyone had to put something on TV. Now everyone's got to have an app. Everyone's got to have whatever, a mobile optimized site. We do too, right? And that's okay. But mobile is just another channel for storytelling. And there are nuances on how you would tell that story online, in TV, in print, or on a phone. Manage the present, invent the future, innovate, and I'll spend a little bit of time talking about, everyone's heard of the 80-20 rule, right? So, of course, at Coke we do things a little different. We've got a 70-20-10 rule. We invest 70% of our budgets against the now. Things that are proven, things that we know work. 70% against now. Commercials in the Final Four, commercials in American Idol. We know print works, we know outdoor works, we know digital and search and email marketing work. We spend 20% in the next. What's next? Next could be technologies that are adopted in other parts of the world that are new to us. You think about some of the newer smartphones coming out with NFC technology, near-field communications. It gives you the ability to just tap your phone to another phone and trade a business card or a movie or a song. Wildly popular in parts of Asia, emerging in the US. So we're testing NFC. And we're partnering with Google Wallet to be able to buy a Coke at a vending machine by just tapping and using your smartphone. That's next. And then the 10%, be ready to throw it away. Because that 10% it's truly a testing fund. I don't know if this is going to work. But if I don't test, I may fail, I may learn. If I fail, I'm going to learn and reapply it and test it again. And eventually, what you're testing will move into the next bucket. You'll continue to refine it, and it'll move into the now bucket. And from a financial perspective, you may not get the 70, 20, 10% rule down every time. If you can get to 95 or 96 and 4, that's okay. At least you're doing something to test. Just let go. Have a plan. Have a plan for when that social conversation happens. Have a plan for when a bunch of detractors try to take the luster off of your brand. Try to have a plan, and Joe talked about this yesterday, for social media. What do you do when? Something's going to happen, right? You know it. Have a crisis plan. Have a social media plan. Have a policy. Have a plan. But as I tell my kids, you have to let go in order to move forward. You have to let go to move your brand forward. And with that, I say thank you. So I don't know how much time we have for Q&A, but more than happy to take as many questions as you have about the marketing campaign, my thoughts on the program, freestyle. Yes?
Is there a platform, media platform, or any one of those channels that you had outlined that you would say doesn't work for your brand? Or has an example of something that just hasn't worked?
It's hard to answer in isolation. I shared this morning at the hotel that we had a research executive at a conference about a month ago who made the statement that Facebook doesn't work because you can't tie Facebook to sales. Gee, in isolation, yeah, that's probably right. But when you look at Facebook building and adding on to TV and print and all the other channels, yeah, sure it works. It amplifies your entire story. We've tested a lot. We've got a mobile app for Coca-Cola Freestyle. We've refined it while we continue to bring in research and consumer insights. There are elements of probably all of those things that don't work, but by and large, I wouldn't throw any one of them individually out. Yeah.
You talked about brand love. It sounded a lot like brand equity to me. Are you using them synonymously, and if not, what's the difference?
We are not using them synonymously. When we think about brand, we measure equity, love, purchase intent. What else do we measure? Repeat visit. All of these things are in what we call our brand health scores and our tracker. And over time, we measure back to love is, where does Coca-Cola fall on your favorite top 2 in the top 5 box score, top 2 tier? Do I love Coke? How does it make me feel? Where equity is more about for Coca-Cola Freestyle, can I get the choice? Can I get the variety? Does the brand, does the dispenser set you apart? But it's more of, again, going back to Scott's presentation yesterday, empathy and sympathy. That's really where the needle moves over. You really love a brand, you're empathetic toward the brand, you're willing to share the brand, and that's how we define love. Yes?
How do you specifically measure your success?
How much time do we have? It's every month we do a scorecard or a dashboard across all the channels that we market in. For social media, there was a point in time where everyone wanted the highest fan base on Twitter and Facebook. It was all about the like, right? And I've never been a fan of the like, because now, with all the Facebook algorithm changes, you have to buy the like. There's no such thing as organic growth. They force you into advertising. If the Coca-Cola Facebook page were to have started today, there's no way, without spending a gazillion dollars, we can get to the 66 million fans. We did it over the course of time when organic actually existed. So we look at engagement as a more important metric than fan growth or impressions. In our mobile app for Coke Freestyle, we've got a mobile application on iOS and Android, and there it's about the time spent in the app. How many times does a consumer come into the app? So the unique fan base. In traditional media, print, outdoor, the outdoor campaign that I shared, even digital banners and email marketing, it's awareness. Does that exposure, were you aware of it? Did you see that outdoor board in Chicago? Did it entice you to seek out a store?
How do you do that? Yeah, where do you ask those questions?
Mostly through focus groups. Through focus groups, both online and in person. A lot of surveys. And then from a website perspective, how many pages within our website are they visiting? The frequency, the impressions, the engagement. Are they sharing or are they not? If they hit the home page, why do they fall off? Why don't they go to the next page and the next page? How do we optimize the site? We talked about Google search and optimization yesterday. Where are we on the rankings? How through organic and paid can I optimize where I sit in the rankings? And even from an app perspective, what's my ranking within the App Store? We measure that as well. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have one, looking now at your recent spots, it really struck me that commercials from the TV were very produced, and polar bear is also very produced. The current spots have very unproduced.
Yeah. Great observation. So we still have the multi-million-dollar productions, right? Absolutely. There's a need, there's a purpose, there's an environment for it. But when you try to polish everything to the nth degree, you lose speed, you lose the efficiency. And consumers, the reality is, in an iPhone world, they don't need all the polish, all the luster. Give them a good story. And the Happiness Machine video in a college campus, right? Low budget, low quality, somewhat low quality, right? But it's been replicated now so many times in so many other college campuses that in aggregate we're probably over 6 million views at this point. But the production value was so low, I would argue that that spot, if you want to call it a spot, delivers more value to us than a $1 million commercial in the American Idol finale. So again, there's a balance.
And as part of that package, the Happiness Machine spot looks like it's a security camera. Of course, it's not. It's very staged.
Right.
And by the way, the other one with all of the footage of security cameras,
Yes.
that was real stuff.
That's real stuff. That's real stuff. And each, so on the On the Call Me Crazy video, where you see the girl who high fives and the man who hangs swings from all the trees, there are also, that's the montage of each of those individual videos. So we tell the story of the person who hands out $1,000 randomly. It's the element of surprise. It's that ordinary looking Coke machine, or in the case of the Hug Me machine video, the unordinary. What do I do to this? Where do I put my money? Come on, seriously? I hug it and I get a Coke? That's the authenticity. And if you've got the authenticity and you've got brand love, you don't need the multi-million-dollar production on the creative side. Yes?
I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your presentation, and mine is more of a request. I work for the Alumni Center here, and I think that hug machine or the happiness machine should come over on game day.
Actually, I'm kind of biased. I want to put a couple freestyle machines at the lair and then bring the Coke Freestyle truck to game day. All right, you're on. You're on. Anything else? Anything about freestyle? Anything about my experience in the IMC program? It's been a few years since I've been out, so yes.
Could you talk just a little bit about gaming?
Oh, so if you didn't hear the question, talk about gaming and how that fits into the mix. If you go to iTunes and Android today, you download our current version of the mobile application, there's a memory game. Who remembers the Simon memory game as a kid, right? So that's basically our memory game. You match the brand button with the tone, you try to beat the clock, get it all correct. And while, yes, it's a game, the reason for that game to even be there is to educate consumers on the choice and variety that's available on the machine. So to do a game for pure entertainment, for us, it's not necessarily on brand strategy. To do it for entertainment and education, now you're talking. Now, we're in the midst of releasing an entirely new mobile application. It'll be out in about 30, maybe 60 days. And again, the landscape has changed so much that gaming, by definition, is irrelevant. Because if you think about the Foursquares of the world and some of the other check-in location-based services, I check in and now, what? I get a badge. When I get a badge, what do I get? I get points. Ooh, I'm the mayor now, great! The real world has become a video game. And now I'm accumulating points, I'm doing this, I'm checking this, I'm hashtagging that. And gaming for us, you can almost replace gaming or gamification for loyalty programs. Because we look at gaming and checking in as now a reward for real world actions. Go to the Wendy's, try the Coke Freestyle machine. Hey, I know you really like Coke, but if I give you a badge, will you try Coke Orange? A badge doesn't cost me anything, right? How many people are on My Coke Rewards? Do you know what My Coke Rewards is? So there's 22 million people. My Coke Rewards is a loyalty program that we've got for Coca-Cola in North America, 22 million people. You untwist the cap, you enter in your code, you accumulate the points. But the reality is, every point has a dollar value to it. And all those unused points hit our bottom line. And it's in all of our tax filings. And that's a huge liability to the company. Think about Delta Sky Miles, right? The millions of points that could be redeemed at any instant, but they're just sitting there. They don't expire. It's a liability. A badge costs me nothing. I can make you the mayor, I can make you the queen, I can make you whatever you want to be. Doesn't hit my bottom line, I'm okay with it. It's just a few hours of a creative person's time. What's that badge? How do we give it to you? How do we answer any questions? Yes?
I've noticed that currently a lot of major companies are doing more product placements. Can you talk about that, like your experience with it?
Yes. So the question is, what is Coca-Cola doing with product placement? I wish I knew the number. I truly do. I wish I knew the number of all of the films where just a simple can was placed. Some of those opportunities are paid. Some of them, it's just a producer who is such and such. Everyone's got a story. A producer may be a fan of the brand, and they asked us for permission to put our trademark in a film, in a music video, whatever. American Idol, what's on the judges' table? That's a paid placement, right? They give nothing away for free at Fox. Nothing. Nothing. But that's value. It's an element that can't be skipped. It can't be TiVoed, right? In a warped way, I liked what Simon Cowell said. I wouldn't fast forward through that. That was entertainment, right? But there was always a Coke vessel there right on the table. So it's that moment where you can still, without saying anything, communicate the brand, and again, communicate the consistency. Any other questions? Yes?
You have great stories. Where do you get all your stories?
I made them up 20 minutes ago. No, I'm very humbled by this, but working at the Coca-Cola Company and being around so many great people, great storytellers, great brands. You know, Coke, Sprite, Fanta, Vitamin Water, they're all brands. They all tell stories in their own unique way. But again, it all comes back to the core of IMC and Liquid and Linked, and just the philosophy and the discipline we have for storytelling. I wish, the stories go on and on and on. I can talk about this for hours. Yes?
Do you have any interesting stories about entering any new global markets and the response from people in those markets?
Just as crazy. So for Coca-Cola Freestyle, we put the first restaurant that had Coke Freestyle was in Atlanta in 2009. And in the US, we've grown from that first store to about 7,600 locations today. And think about it, a location is an AMC or a Regal cinema, but inside that cinema, you could have 6 or 8 different freestyle machines. So it's still one DOS. It's one outlet, one location. Outside the US, the first time we put a freestyle machine in Japan, they went crazy. At Burger King's in the UK, absolutely crazy. So, fun sidetrack on a story. So my counterpart on the Fanta brand team called me one Friday afternoon. It's 4:30, of course. Crisis always happens on a Friday at a 4:30. And he said, "You're never going to believe this." I was like, "All right, what, Steven?" And he said, "The drummer for One Direction found us on Twitter. His mom likes, I think it was grape Fanta. They can't find it anywhere in the UK. And the Fanta brand team was going to ship this drummer a pallet of grape Fanta." Okay, that's your budget, that's not my budget, right? So you're thinking, what does any of this have to do with me? He said, "Doesn't the freestyle machine have grape Fanta on it?" "Why, yes it does." "Aren't you in the UK?" Yes. Now, I don't think the drummer from One Direction is just going to stroll into a Burger King without a whole host of other people, but it's those random things, it's the random stories. And folks in the UK right now, they're coming onto our Facebook page. They're asking, where are the locations? The interesting piece, though, in the UK, we don't advertise where the locations are. Because for Burger King, it's a test. They want to understand what Coca-Cola Freestyle does to their business compared to the days before Coke Freestyle. Does it increase their traffic into the store? Does it increase their volume? Does it increase total transactions? So they wanted no advertising, no marketing whatsoever. They wanted truly an unbiased look at their business results. And you talk about how we measure success, that's it as well. What happens on the cash register side? Well, we may not own the cash register at a Wendy's. If they weren't growing sales and traffic and transaction, they would not keep Coke Freestyle in their outlet. They would go back to older equipment, older technology that they own, they don't lease. So sales volume and reporting is huge to us there. Yes.
I apologize if you mentioned this, but I'm curious how large the marketing team is at Coca-Cola, and then specifically in the Freestyle brand.
Okay.
And then how your IMC degree, how you think it might have differentiated you among probably a ton of MBAs down there.
Yes. So I grin ear to ear on the second question, but I'll take the first question. There are hundreds of brand marketers in Atlanta, each on a brand or two. From a brand director to associate brand manager, all ranks in between. And then you've got the creative and the media side and public affairs, and the full IMC team equals in the hundreds. And you think about it, it's in Atlanta primarily for the US market, but in the next building on our campus, those are all global marketers. So we've got another few dozen that help guide the strategy and the execution for what happens in all the international markets. We don't make all the decisions out of Atlanta for global, but we share the best nuggets and knowledge and case studies, so everyone doesn't have to go through the entire learning curve on every single thing. So sharing's a huge piece of what we do. I wish I could say that the sharing works flawlessly every time. It doesn't, because there was a video that hit Mashable, I think it's now 2 days ago. You could take a can, I think it was in Coke Singapore, you take a can, you untwist it, and it's a shareable can. The can splits in two. Cool! I didn't know about that, and I work at the company. I read it in Mashable like everybody else. But then the amazing thing was, when I talked to the folks at Ogilvy and Mather, who I use in their Atlanta office, and it was Ogilvy Singapore, they knew nothing about it either. That's big company, big marketing organization. So to your second point, how IMC and how the master's program helped me. When I moved to Atlanta, I graduated from my undergrad here in '94, moved to Atlanta in '95, and got my first job in advertising. I was a media buyer. Very siloed, very disciplined. I could buy media, I could plan media, had that down cold. But as I changed jobs and changed industries, I became more familiar with creative and strategy and PR. But when I made it to Coke in mid-2006, it didn't matter. The exposure to other disciplines within marketing didn't matter. What? You mean you're not a traditional creative guy? You're a media guy. I don't want to talk to you about creative, right? So the IMC program gave me a holistic view of marketing, to where now in any conversation, in any department, in any silo, I can actually hold a pretty good conversation. And not only can I hold a conversation, I can lead the conversation and lead the thinking, because a lot of those folks are where I was pre-program, very siloed. I know marketing, but I know PR, but I don't know media. So it's helped me, if nothing else, become a fantastic interpreter. But then I was humbled when I came to the Coke Freestyle team, because for Freestyle, when I joined, there were only 3 people on the marketing team for Coca-Cola Freestyle. And it was all centralized. All of the global expansion into Japan and Puerto Rico and Canada, it's done by a 3-person team. That's it. Today, 2 years later, we're still a 3-person team in Atlanta, but as other markets start to expand, we now have dedicated Freestyle people, marketing folks in Canada. So again, we share a lot of the results and learning from what we have over the last several years in the US, hoping that our folks in Toronto can apply that same learning north of the border. Yes?
It's not really a question, but I just want to tell you that my coworkers and I refer to it as the magic cookie machine. And we base our lunch decisions around which restaurant has one.
I love it. I love it.
And
Yes.
we have free Coke and Diet Coke sent to the office, but we ignore it for the magic machine.
All right. Now, I'm sorry, but I have to ask. What do you try when you go to see a Freestyle machine?
Actually, the cherry vanilla Mr. Pibb.
All right.
That's usually my.
I thought you were going to tell me Coke and Diet Coke that you just ignored.
No.
I hear that a lot, though. I mean, hey, the machine's great, it's cool, it's a fun experience. What do you get?
Magic.
Coke. It's magic. But what do you get? A Coke? All right, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that at all.
I think they do get Coke, but I don't think it's,
There are, of the 140 plus drinks on the dispenser, 80 of them, over 80 of them, you can't find anywhere else. Orange Coke, you can't find. Peach Sprite, you can't find. They are truly exclusive to Coca-Cola Freestyle. And when you think about, the health conscious, low and no calorie drinkers, before you would walk into a Wendy's and what's your diet option? It's Diet Coke. If I don't like Diet Coke, I get water, but that's my only choice. Now we've got over 70 options that are either low or no calorie.
I actually do the low calorie just
There-
to carry vanilla.
There you go. There you go. All right. All right. Thank you.